Section 2 of the Works of Edgar Allan Poe, Raven Edition, Volume 4. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Recording by Arnie Horton. Lionizing by Edgar Allan Poe. All people went upon their 10 toes in wild wonderment. Bishop Hall's Satires. I am, that is to say, I was a great man, but I am neither the author of Junius nor the man in the mask. For my name, I believe, is Robert Jones, and I was born somewhere in the city of Fum Fudge. The first action of my life was the taking hold of my nose with both hands. My mother saw this and called me a genius. My father wept for joy and presented me with a treatise on nosology. This I mastered before I was breeched. I now began to feel my way in the science, and soon came to understand that, provided a man had a nose sufficiently conspicuous, he might, by merely following it, arrive at a lionship. But my attention was not confined to theories alone. Every morning I gave my proboscis a couple of pulls and swallowed a half-dozen of drams. When I came of age, my father asked me one day if I would step with him into his study. "My son," said he, when we were seated, "what is the chief end of your existence?" "My father," I answered, "it is the study of nosology." "And what, Robert," he inquired, "is nosology?" "Sir," I said, "it is the science of noses." "And can you tell me," he demanded, "what is the meaning of a nose?" "A nose, my father," I replied, greatly softened, "has been variously defined by about 1,000 different authors." Here I pulled out my watch. "It is now noon or thereabouts. We shall have time enough to get through with them all before midnight. To commence then, the nose, according to Bartholinus, is that protuberance, that bump, that excrescence, that—" "Will do, Robert," interrupted the good old gentleman. "I am thunderstruck at the extent of your information. I am positively, upon my soul—" Here he closed his eyes and placed his hand upon his heart. "Come here." Here he took me by the arm. "Your education may now be considered as finished. It is high time you should scuffle for yourself, and you cannot do a better thing than merely follow your nose so. Here he kicked me downstairs and out of the door. "So get out of my house, and God bless you." As I felt within me the divine afflatus, I considered this accident rather fortunate than otherwise. I resolved to be guided by the paternal advice. I determined to follow my nose. I gave it a pull or two upon the spot, and wrote a pamphlet on nosology forthwith. All Fum Fudge was in an uproar. "Wonderful genius," said the Quarterly. "Superb physiologist," said the Westminster. "Clever fellow," said the Foreign. "Fine writer," said the Edinburgh. "Profound thinker," said the Dublin. "Great man," said Bentley. "Divine soul," said Fraser. "One of us," said Blackwood. "Who can he be?" said Mrs. Basbleu. "What can he be?" said big Miss Basbleu. "Where can he be?" said little Miss Basbleu. But I paid these people no attention whatever. I just stepped into the shop of an artist. The Duchess of Bless My Soul was sitting for her portrait. The Marquis of So and So was holding the Duchess's poodle. The Earl of This and That was flirting with her salts, and His Royal Highness of Touch Me Not was leaning upon the back of her chair. I approached the artist and turned up my nose. "Oh, beautiful!" sighed her Grace. "Oh my!" lisped the Marquis. "Oh, shocking!" groaned the Earl. "Oh, abominable!" growled his Royal Highness. "What will you take for it?" asked the artist. "For his nose?" shouted her Grace. "£1,000," said I, sitting down. "£1,000?" inquired the artist, musingly. "£1,000," said I. "Beautiful!" said he, entranced. "£1,000," said I. "Do you warrant it?" he asked, turning the nose to the light. "I do," said I, blowing it well. "It is quite original?" he inquired, touching it with reverence. "Humph!" said I, twisting it to one side. "Has no copy been taken?" he demanded, surveying it through a microscope. "None," said I, turning it up. "Admirable!" he ejaculated, thrown quite off his guard by the beauty of the maneuver. "£1,000," said I. "£1,000?" said he. "Precisely," said I. "£1,000?" said he. "Just so," said I. "You shall have them," said he. "What a piece of virtue!" So he drew me a check upon the spot, and took a sketch of my nose. I engaged rooms in Jermyn Street, and sent Her Majesty the 99th edition of the Nosology, with a portrait of the proboscis. That sad little rake, the Prince of Wales, invited me to dinner. We were all lions and recherches. There was a modern Platonist. He quoted Porphyry, Iamblichus, Plotinus, Proclus, Hierocles, Maximus Tyrius, and Syrianus. There was a human perfectibility man. He quoted Turgot, Price, Priestley, Condorcet, De Stael, and the ambitious student in ill health. There was Sir Positive Paradox. He observed that all fools were philosophers, and that all philosophers were fools. There was Aestheticus Ethics. He spoke of fire, unity, and atoms, bipart and pre-existent soul, affinity and discord, primitive intelligence and homomeria. There was Theologus Theology. He talked of Eusebius and Irenaeus, heresy in the Council of Nice, Puseyism and Consubstantialism, Homousius and Homoiousios. There was fricassee from the Rocher de Cancale. He mentioned Meriton of red tongue, cauliflowers with velouté sauce, veal à la Saint Menehoult, marinade à la Saint Florentin, and orange jellies en mosaïques. There was Bibulus O Bumper. He touched upon Lator and Marc Brunen, upon Museau and Chabertin, upon Richebourg and Saint George, upon Haubrion, Leonville and Medoc, upon Barac and Praignac, upon Grave, upon Sauterne, upon Lafitte, and upon Saint Péray. He shook his head at Clos de Vougeot, and told with his eyes shut the difference between sherry and amontillado. There was Signor Tintino from Florence. He discoursed of Ciambue, Arpino, Carpaccio, and Argostino, of the gloom of Caravaggio, of the amenity of Albano, of the colors of Titian, of the frowns of Rubens, and of the waggeries of Jan Steen. There was the president of the Fum Fudge University. He was of opinion that the moon was called Bendis in Thrace, Bubastis in Egypt, Dion in Rome, and Artemis in Greece. There was a Grand Turk from Stamboul. He could not help thinking that the angels were horses, cocks, and bulls, that somebody in the sixth heaven had 70,000 heads, and that the earth was supported by a sky blue cow with an incalculable number of green horns. There was Delphinus Polyglot. He told us what had become of the 83 lost tragedies of Aeschylus, of the 54 orations of Isaias, of the 391 speeches of Lysias, of the 180 treatises of Theophrastus, of the 8th book of the conic sections of Apollonius, of Pindar's hymns and dithyrambics, and of the 45 tragedies of Homer Jr. There was Ferdinand Fitz Fossilis Feldspar. He informed us all about internal fires and tertiary formations, about aeriforms, fluidiforms, and solidiforms, about quartz and marl, about schist and schorl, about gypsum and trap, about talc and calc, about blende and hornblende, about mica slate and pudding stone, about syenite and lepidolite, about hematite and tremolite, about antimony and chalcedony, about manganese, and whatever you please. There was myself. I spoke of myself, of myself, of myself, of myself, of nosology, of my pamphlet, and of myself. I turned up my nose, and I spoke of myself. Marvelous clever man, said the prince. Superb, said his guests. And next morning her grace of bless my soul paid me a visit. Will you go to Almack's, pretty creature? Said she, tapping me under the chin. Upon honor, said I. Nose and all, she asked. As I live, I replied. Here then is a card, my life. Shall I say you will be there? Dear Duchess, with all my heart. Pshaw, no, but with all your nose. Every bit of it, my love, said I. So I gave it a twist or two and found myself at Almack's. The rooms were crowded to suffocation. He is coming, said somebody on the staircase. He is coming, said somebody farther up. He is coming, said somebody farther still. He is come, exclaimed the Duchess. He is come, the little love. And, seizing me firmly by both hands, she kissed me thrice upon the nose. A marked sensation immediately ensued. Diavolo, cried Count Capricornuti. Dios guarda, muttered Don Stiletto. Mille tonneres, ejaculated the Prince de Granoil. Toussaint Tuffel, growled the Elector of Bluddennuff. It was not to be borne. I grew angry. I turned short upon Bluddennuff. Sir, said I to him, you are a baboon. Sir, he replied after a pause, Donner and Blitzen. This was all that could be desired. We exchanged cards. At Chalk Farm the next morning I shot off his nose, and then called upon my friends. Bete, said the first. Fool, said the second. Dolt, said the third. Ass, said the fourth. Ninny, said the fifth. Noodle, said the sixth. Be off, said the seventh. At all this I felt mortified, and so called upon my father. Father, I asked, what is the chief end of my existence? My son, he replied, it is still the study of nosology. But in hitting the Elector upon the nose you have overshot your mark. You have a fine nose, it is true, but then Bluddennuff has none. You are damned, and he has become the hero of the day. I grant you that in Fum Fudge the greatness of a lion is in proportion to the size of his proboscis. But, good heavens, there is no competing with a lion who has no proboscis at all. End of section 2.